Hello there, team. Hey, this is Joe here. Hey, here's a quick little video. I thought I'd make a little project using Crimson 3.2 and something you can do on your own with the emulator, and you can try this on your PC with Crimson 3.2. I will tell you that in this today's date, help and about that I'm currently running build 3.2.1006.0 in here. So that's the build I have. I recommend you get the same build or close to it, or a newer build than that, but that's what I have as of today. So in this example, I'm going to start up a brand new Crimson database. I'm going to go File New, and I'm going to select, for our example, for this little test, I'm going to use the G07 model. Okay, you can pick whatever you want, but I'm going to use the G07. Well, particularly, I'm looking for one that has a screen on it, so I'm going to use the G07 in this case for this example. And I just want to build some tags in here to create a tank that might fill up and do some simple logic. So if I go over here to the left in data tags, and right up here, there's that little small pull down arrow right next to the word new here. If you hit that little pull down, you can declare either numeric tag, flag tag, string tag, or basic. I'm going to create a numeric tag because I want that tag to be my tank level in this little example. And this is all going to be done in the emulator, so follow along and do the same thing, and you can do this on your own. So where it says tag 1 here, I can either click on that like that, or I can right click and do rename. Either way, but I'd like to call this tank underscore level. I want to rename this tank underscore level because I typed no spaces. You got to do underscore, hit enter, and that takes that. So you can see right now that tag is blue because it's an internal tag. It's not mapped to anything. I'm going to use one of the built-in simulator things that we have here in Crimson that'll make this thing ramp up and down. And I have another video on this function, but I'll show you where it is here. So what I want you to do is go down to the lower right-hand corner of Crimson, down here in the lower right-hand corner, and click on System. Now, if you don't see these icons, if Crimson opens up like this with a bunch of icons, do me a favor and stretch those up. And by the way, you can stretch up the left side just so you see stuff. I really don't need to see anything past programs right now, web server. But anyway, lower right-hand corner, click on System, expand the functions tree, and then if you slide down, there's a category here called tag data. Expand the tag data, and there's a function here called get up down data. Now, other videos I'll show you, but you can right click on this, you can show help info, and it'll show you what it does. But in this case, I'm going to use this function here. So I'm going to drag this out here and drop it right here on the word where it says internal. Okay. Now you can see here in the parentheses, right here, you got a 0, 0. So the first function is we got to make that a disp count, some other internal function in Crimson that automatically counts up. And that function, just so you know, is found over here in System. If you collapse the functions tree, expand the variable tree, and it's disp count, this guy right here. Again, if you right click and show help info, it'll show you what that thing does. But I want to change this first 0 here to be that function. In another previous video I have you click the edit button and it'll open up a little pop-up here like this. But some people's computers, certain version of Windows, this doesn't show up very easy to see. So I'm going to do it the long way here. I'm going to click in here, team. If you watch here, I'm going to click a few times to where I get the blue, and I'm going to leave my cursor. And you see my cursor blinking. So if I delete the 0, that's what I want to do. And I'm going to manually type that function, DISP COUNT. You don't have to make the D or C capitalized. I don't think that matters, but it has to be all one word, disp count. And then I have a comma after that. And over here where it has 0, I'm going to put that number for this example. Let's put that at 300. And then because I typed in there and I got that like that, I'm going to hit enter and it turns blue and accepts it. If you have any typo or a mistake or something, it'll bark at you, but you're looking for it to turn blue. This function is going to count up to 300 and then back down again. That's all it's going to do. It's going to go up and down between 0 to 300. So just to prove that case, I'm going to go over here to display pages. You guys should do the same thing. And I'm going to go ahead and delete the hello world off this page. And I'm going to change the background color of this page to white. So I'm going to right click, go to properties, change the background color, the fill color here from black to white, and then click the OK button down below here. There's my blank palette. Now, I just want to show this happening. So I'm going to go over to the right side and click data tags on the right side. And I'm going to grab this tank level tag we just created and drag it out on the page like this. And I'll make this field be a little bit bigger. And then I want to make the font much bigger. So if you remember this from any of my classes or whatever, if you haven't been in a class, I'll show you something. If you click anywhere else, I call this my losing focus. I'm clicking, I've lost focus. Now watch. If I just hover over this thing, so where it turns blue, I haven't clicked on anything. I'm just hovering. If I click one time, this ghosted set of icons will come up. And team, this icon right here will make the font much bigger. Go ahead and hit that as many times as possible. And this capital B is in bold, will bold the font. So if I go ahead and do that, boom, 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 boom. And I might make if you have where it's like this, you might want to make that box a little bigger like so, because it's supposedly going to go from 0 to 300. That's the plan here. Now I want to show this here. Now, this little icon right here, team, this little icon right here is the quick button to the emulator. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the emulator by clicking that, and that gives me that background color that's kind of a yellow, orangish, or I don't know what you call it, tan color. But that means that the emulator is turned on, or you can also go to the link pull down, go down to options, and you can check here, send to emulator as well. That's the same procedure. So I'm going to send this and download to emulator. Notice, team, that the emulator execution is limited to 15 minutes. What happens after 15 minutes if you leave it open? The computer will start to beep at you and then eventually shuts down, and you just re-download it and it'll run. But anyway, it runs for 15 minutes. So I'm going to click the OK button. And then I'm going to use my magic Shazam button, the lightning bolt here, to download the program. So if I click there, click on the update button, let's see what happens. By the way, if this is the first time that you download to the emulator, it might ask you to install PCAP. So go ahead and say yes. I think it's some software that you use, but go ahead and download that to the emulator and install that PCAP. And then you should start to see on your screen the tank level, as we're witnessing right here, count up and down from 0 to 300. I probably should have made that 200 so it's not so long. Matter of fact, I'll go back and fix it here in a second. But I just want to show it that it should go all the way to 300, and then it should start to count back down to 0 and just repeats its sequence here. Watch. And there you go, you see that. So you can either click on Crimson in the background, or you can right-click down on the taskbar and close the emulator. I just leave the emulator open, no big deal. Now, I'm going to change that time from 300 to 200. So I'm going to go back to data tags on the left, and in here where I have the number 300, since that's going to take so long, let's change that to 200 and hit enter. So that'll count up to 200. Now, because that's going to go, we're going to do this to 200 here in this case. I'm going to go to the Format tab, click on the Format tab for this tag, and down here where it says min and max, I'm going to put 0 for the minimum, and I'm going to put 200 for the maximum. The reason I'm doing that here is because I want to put a tank graphic on the screen, and I want it to get its min and max from the tag level here. So I'm going to go back to display pages on the left. Let's go over to the right side, team, and let's go into a category called symbols on the right side. And if you go into symbols, you have all these symbol factory here of stuff. If you go down to the category called tanks, right here, category called tanks, T-A-N-K-S. And when you click here, you have all these different pictures of different tanks that are in here, that are in this category. Doesn't matter which one you pick, they all operate the same way. I will tell you a little word of advice. Any tank that you pick that has legs on it, our fill-up algorithm will fill up the legs with the color. So that kind of looks a little weird, but I typically will grab a tank that doesn't have legs. So if you find one here that you like that doesn't have legs, if you click on it one time, you'll get a bunch of pre-built different colored versions of that tanks, which we're going to change the colors anyway, so it doesn't matter. So I'm going to grab a tank out here like this, and I'm going to go ahead and stretch it like so. And there's that tank. Now I want this tank to fill up with the tag from tank level. So let me double click on this guy to bring up its properties, or right click, go to properties. Notice you got image and you got the shading tab here, right? This phone is going crazy here, team. So turn that off there. Okay, so my phone's still ringing. Yeah, I can't turn it off. Anyway, so I want this thing to follow the tag from tank level. So if you go to the shading tab here, you see down here, team, where it says shading, original colors, and you see in here where it says shade behavior, but it's all grayed out. Well, if you hit the pull down here for shading, choose solid color. And I do this in class all the time, so choose solid color. We want this thing to fill up with the bottom with our tank level tag. So right here where it says fill mode block basically means the whole thing is either this color or that color type thing. And if you hit the pull down here where it says block, you can decide whether you want to fill from left, right, bottom, whatever. I'm going to choose fill from bottom. And then I'm going to go over here to the right side and go to data tags on the right side and simply grab the tag tank level here and drag and drop it right here in the value field. Notice when you do that, let's see what happens to the min and max here. So we'll drag this guy right here, right there, boom. Look, it automatically got the min and max from the tank level, from that tag, I'm sorry. So that's what I want to see, which is awesome. However, if you notice in my screen here, I lost all of my really cool shading, if you will. So down here, team, where it says include alpha channel, if you hit the pull down for alpha channel, choose all channels, and that'll get back to that shading. And then I'm going to do a little further. I'm going to change my custom 3 to be actual blue, and then I'll change my other color here to be, I'm not going to do white because my background's white, but I might choose, let's choose yellow for giggles. Let's go with a pretty good contrast. All right, so if we click the OK button here, there's our particular screen. Let me go ahead and download this to the emulator. Let's see what happens here. So there you have it filling up. It should fill all the way up to level 200, and then when it gets full, it should come right on back down. So let's take a look here. Nothing like some Diet Coke for drinking water, soda. Perfect. There you go, team. You can see it filling up great. All right. So I got that working here in this example. Maybe I'd like to make some logic that if the tank level is, say, above, we'll say 175, for instance, in our count, we want to open a valve. And if it drops below, say, 25, we want to turn on a pump. Let's say we want to write some simple logic that does this algorithm. I'm saying when it goes above 175, I want to open a valve. And when it goes below 25, I want to turn on a pump. So let's go over here to the left, and let's go to Programs on the left-hand side. Click on Programs on the left side. And I'm pretty much flying by the seat of my pants here as I make this video. I haven't tested this, so this is just flying off the cuff here. So I'm going to ask the question. If the tank level is above 175, I want to turn on a valve. So I'm going to simply in here, I'm going to type if, and I'm going to do open parentheses, one open parentheses, because I have only one condition here I'm asking, and that condition is if tank level is greater than 175, do this action. So I got if, open parentheses, I'm going to go over to the right side, and I'm going to drag the tag in here. Now, you can also type this, but I like the dragging idea because if I have these tags nested in folders, it brings out the folder name, folder name, folder name, the tag name, which is great. So otherwise, you got to type all that. Anyway, so if I drag this out like this, I'm going to ask the question, is it greater than 175? So I'm going to do a space. I like to do a space, and I'll do a greater than symbol, and I'll do another space, and I'll say 175, and then I'll close parentheses. So that is the condition here that we're trying this logic. We're saying if the tank level is greater than 175, then the next thing is to do something. Now, in normal C world, this is like a C-like programming, you could do the same line or so forth. What I have a lot of people do is they have a lot of different things they want to happen. So I've just started teaching this. I'll hit the enter button, which creates a carriage return line feed. And then I'm going to tab across one time, hit the tab to tab across. And because we might have multiple things in here we're going to do, I'm going to do shift and the squiggly brackets, which is that shift and that character next to the letter P. And then I'll enter. And then I want to put a little comment in here for the next guy. So I'm going to say 2 forward slashes, and I'll say turn, let's say not turn, let's say open the valve. Okay. So we're going to say open the valve, enter again, and then we're going to type valve equals 1. For our case, we'll say valve equals 1, which is going to be the open condition, I think. And then because that's a statement that's doing something, I'm going to put a semicolon after that. This up here, the if statement, is not a statement. That's a question, if you will. So this is the thing that's doing something. So I'll put a semicolon at the end, enter, which is a line feed, and I'll put a close squiggly bracket, enter again. I'll put 2 enter back to here. So this open squiggly here goes with this closed squiggly, and if this statement here, let me see if I can find a green color. If this statement here is true, then it will execute all the stuff in here. That's the first part here. Okay, so pretend here, team, you're going to see this happen. If the tank level goes above 175, we're going to open the valve. Okay, perfect. All right. And then my other thing was I said, okay, if the tank level is below 25, I want to turn on the pump. So I'm going to do another if here. I'm going to drag the tank level out here like this, space, and then I'll say if it's less than 25, close parentheses. So you got, that's the if condition here. I'll do enter, tab across, open squiggly again, enter for the next line, and I'll say down here, turn on the pump. So I'm typing this comments here, enter, and then I'll say pump 1 equals sign, because I want to assign the value, equals a 1, like so, semicolon, that's the end of that statement, enter, close parentheses, that's that. Now we're going to come back to this because I can already foresee some problems we have, and that is what closes the valve or what turns the pump off. We'll get to that in a second. Let's not worry about that. However, I want you to notice, team, that since you wrote this in here, a couple things happen in Crimson. The diamond over here becomes yellow because you need to compile or translate, and the word translate or compile down here shows up. I do need to point something out to you. In this example, we do not have a tag called valve or pump yet. Notice there is no tag over here called valve or pump. And because I'm going to make these be global tags that I want to use anywhere else, eventually they're going to show up here. If I wanted them to be a local variable that resided in the program, then I would have to declare them up above here, but we're not going to do that in this little quick example. So when you click out here, there's a little green checkbox button here. It's called the translate button. So if I click, it's this green little button right here is called the translate button. Okay. So if I go ahead and click that, watch what Crimson does. It's going to politely bark at me and say, hey, we couldn't find that tag over here. Did you either type it wrong, or would you like for us to create it automatically? Now listen, my valve and my pump only have 2 states in this example, and that is on, off. If they had multiple states, then it would be an integer type. But since these things only have 2 states, I want to declare them as a flag tag. So if you hit the poll down here where it says integer, choose flag tag, and then click yes. You can also do yes to all, and that's going to do everything, but I'm going to do it manually by doing yes, because then it's going to bark at me for the other one. I'm going to make it also be a flag tag, make it be a flag tag, and then click yes. If you accidentally declared those as integers, it's not the end of the world. It'll work fine. It's just that you're wasting a whole integer value for something that's just 1 or 0. Why would you? I always use the example in a class. You flip any coin heads or tails, so whether it's a quarter, nickel, dime, you're going to get heads or tails. Yes, you could flip a $5 bill or a $10 bill and get the same thing, but why would you waste a paper bill when it could be crumpled and not land right? Anyway, so in this case, I got my 2 variables here. Now, right now, this is program 1, but we're not actually calling this program or executing anywhere here in this example. So I'm going to make this program run every second. I'm not going the highest speed here. I'm just going to make this program happen every second, this particular extremely simple logic. So if I go over to the left and click display pages on the left, click display pages on the left, and if you click on the word pages above whatever page you have, or multiple pages in your example, but if you click on the word pages up here above all your pages, you can see, team, that you have here some tabs. Well, the first one it should come into by default, hopefully, is the global tab. And you have on power up, startup, tick, and on update. we're going to want to call this program the on tick, which is once a second with the real-time clock in the red line unit. And since we only have one program we're executing right now, the easiest way to do this is to go ahead and go down to the lower right-hand corner of Crimson and click Programs in the lower right-hand corner, and simply grab the program one and simply drag and drop it right here into the on tick field. That's all we got to do here. We're going to drag it there, and that's going to make it run in the background. Well, not in the background, but it's going to run once a second in this application. Okay. So if I click back on display pages, that's what I'm going to see. We want to see these tags go on or off, really in this case on. So I'm going to go over to the right side and go to data tags on the right side. And I'm going to just, for this easiness team, I'm going to go ahead and grab the valve tag. I'll put it right here. And I'll grab the pump tag and maybe I'll put it down here just for this little test. We'll make some more graphics here in a second. All right. So let me go ahead and download this to my emulator, or hit the Shazam button or the update button. Let's watch. Now, according to the logic, well, that's interesting. The pump's already on because when it started, it was below 25. So that makes sense. Okay, that's interesting. Let's watch what happens when it goes above 175. Does the valve go on? Here we go. We're going to get to 175. Boom. Yep. Okay. Now, we didn't make any conditions in that code to turn off our pumps or to close our valve. We just basically said if it went above 175, it opened the valve. And if it went below 25, we turned on the pump. We should probably add some additional logic here, team. So let's go back to our programs on the left here. Let's go back to programs here. And let's see here. So, what we can say here is, think about something here. So we could say, there's that here, beeping. That's my emulator closing. Just so you know, the beep's going to close the emulator. I think you'll hear that. Yeah, there it closed the emulator. Anyway, so in here, I'm going to do this. Right after the valve equals 1, I'm going to hit enter. Let's put pump. I could also drag it, but I'm going to just type it equals 0. That'll turn the pump off. And then down here, just for giggles, let's put here valve equals 0. Oops, I didn't spell valve the same. It's got to be spelled the same, otherwise it'll bark at me. All right, so I made some changes here. According to this logic, if the tank level is above 175, the valve will be open, the pump will be off. And if the tank level is below 25, the pump will be on and the valve is closed. Okay, so because I made these changes, I need to retranslate my program. If you go to download to the unit without translated programs, two things are going to happen. It's going to bark at you. Watch, I'll show it to you. It's going to say, wait a minute, you got untranslated programs. If you don't translate them, they're not going to function as you want. And actually, they don't execute, or they execute as it was before. So I'm going to say no to this friendly reminder, and I'm going to hit the green translate button right here. Boom. There you go. And let's go ahead and hit the lightning bolt. Let's see what happens this time. So the pump, once the courage, the logic picked up, pump is on. You can see that. When it gets up to here, 175, the valve should turn on and the pump should go off. Let's see here. Here we get close to 175. Here we go. There you go. Yep. And the valve is on. The pump is now off. Now let's see what happens when I get below 25 here. Let's see at 25, we should see the valve go closed and the pump should turn on. Let's take a look here. Here we get close to 25. There you go. Perfect. Now, graphically speaking, these graphics stink. Really, they do. They don't have, it's not very visual if you ask me. So let's go back to Crimson. Let's go over to display pages on the left and ponder my thoughts here for my pump. Well, if I go over to the right side and go to my symbols on the right side, and if I go to my home directory of my symbol factory, if you go into a category called pumps, there you go. And in pumps, there's all kinds of different pumps in here. It doesn't matter which one you use. I'm going to grab I'm going to use the Third from the top, the left-hand column, centrifugal pump. If I click on that guy one time, again, a bunch of pre-built colored ones. Doesn't matter which one you choose because we're going to change the colors anyway. So drag one of your pumps out here. And if you move some things around, maybe I'll make this guy a little smaller. And I'll make this a little smaller. I don't need it so big, but I'm going to put it like this. Okay. So I want this thing to change colors when the pump is on or off. And I do this in a bunch of classes, but in this video, I want you to do this on your own using the emulator. So go ahead and double click on your pump picture. Okay. And notice here, it's just like the tank. You got two tabs, an image and a shading. Now you have the colors here in the image options here. I've not used that much. I'm going to go to the shading tab. And on the shading tab, I want this color to change from, say, red off to green on. So if I hit the pull down here for the colors, I'm going to choose solid color. There you go. And you notice you get this fill behavior. I'm going to leave it as block here, but I want this thing to actually get its colors from the tag called pump. So I'm going to go over to the right side of Crimson, click data tags on the right side, and simply grab the pump tag and drag and drop it right here on the word fixed. Just drag it right here on the word fixed. Okay. Or you can also do another way here, team. You can hit the pull down here where it says fixed, as it does right now. It probably said the original color. And you can choose tag foreground, which will open up the target symbol. And you can do the same thing. Simply drag the pump tag right here onto the target symbol. Boom. And that will link that to that tag. Once again, notice that I lost all the cool shading of that graphic. So down here where it says include alpha channel, hit the pull down, select all channels on the bottom, and that should get you back to the shading. I do want you to notice that the color is currently red. At least it is right now, and I'm going to show you why it turned red, because it's getting that colors from the tag pump, and there's something to show you on that. So let me click OK here. If I go back to the left, go to data tags on the left, if you click on the pump tag, click on the pump tag here, remember all of this stuff in this part of Crimson in here pertains to the tag that you are highlighted. So this is all focused on the tag called pump. Notice there's a format tab, and if you go to the colors, here's where those colors are right here. And you can see that it went to the red state because that's the default for the off, and you can see here it has a green or lime for the on. By the way, this is the foreground column. This is the background column. Someday, I wish they'd put the word foreground here and background, but that's what they mean by that. Now, one thing I'll tell you here is if you want to simulate in here where you're at, if you click the data tab here for this guy, all tags in Crimson have a data simulation field. Well, except for maybe the basic, but most of them have a data simulation. If I wanted to simulate this in the on state, 0 is off, 1 is on, I can put a 1 here in the data simulate. Also, since I'm talking about the data simulation, if you click the tank level tag, for instance, if you click the tank level tag, and if you go to the data tab here, also on here, you might have to slide down a little bit, but you'll see down here you got a data simulation. So if you want your tank in Crimson here in the program environment to kind of simulate some value, you can put in here, for instance, I'll put in number 75. I know it's going to go from 0 to 200 because that's what we have right here for our limit, 200 here. So now that I put in 75, you can pick any number you want between 0 and 200 in here. Once I put in a number here, if I go back to display pages, notice Crimson right now is showing everything in the default. When I take my mouse and click out here in Crimson, watch what it does. 1, 2, 3. It simulates this in the on state. Look, that says on, and that went to roughly 25 or 75, I should say. I should add a scale to this. But anyway, so now if I was to go ahead and download this, you can see that the pump went on. It takes about a second for that logic to run because we're running that logic once a second. So you can see that the pump is currently on. And let's watch when it gets to 175, it should go off. Yep, and then went the red state off. Of course, the valve went on. So let's go ahead and add a graphic for our valve here, team. Now the valve, if I want the valve to just change colors, I can do the exact same thing I did with this thing to make a valve. But in my class I teach, I actually want a valve that moves to a different position and changes colors. So if you go over to the right side, well, you got to be on your page. You got to be on display page on the left. Be on page 1, the only page I have here in this database. And if you go to the right side, go to symbols on the right side, go to your home directory of your symbol factory, go to your home directory, which is that button right there. And I believe if you go down to a category called valves, click on the category called valves here, and you'll see a bunch of pictures of different valves. The one I always use in class for this is going to be, I believe it's 6 rows from the top. The right-hand column, there's a PVC 2A ball valve. And if you click on that 2A ball valve once, you can see you get a bunch of different colored versions of that valve. And this is exactly what I want to use. I want to use a red one for one position, a red one for a close, and a green for an open. But I want the green one to have the handle on the other side. And there's no way in here that I've figured out how to change that position. So what I'm going to do instead here, and I think I have another video on this, but it's called the animated image primitive. So if you go to the right side and click primitives on the right side, click on primitives on the right side. And if you're at the home directory, great. If not, be in the home directory of this. The top category is core primitives. Go into core primitives. And in core primitives, we have all these basic shapes and some simple things in here. But the upper right-hand corner is the thing called the animated image primitive, or I call it the IMG as well. But go ahead and grab the animated image or the IMG and drag it out here like so. It's going to be on the page. If you click away, it looks like it disappeared, but it's still there because I have a white background. I should have went with a light gray because it literally says IMG on it. It's hard to read. But anyway, double click on that or right click and go to properties. Notice that this thing, let me see if I can I get this to move? Yeah. It brings you up the animated image doodad. We really want to have 2 images. So you're on the image tab here. Change the image count from 1 to 2. That gives you 2 blank boxes here for your images. Well, listen, I want image 0 to be the red valve. So I'm going to go over to the right side and simply grab the red valve and drag and drop it right here into image 0. And then I'm going to grab the green valve and drag it into image 1, like so. But on image 1, I want the valve here to be on the right side, not the left side, the handle. I want the handle to be on the right side here. So if you click the adjust button here, click the adjust button, brings up this thing here. And if you go ahead and click the mirror, the horizontal, that should move it to the other side. Then click the OK button here. And then let me see here. Okay, so that's the image 01. Now listen, right here in the image select, we need the tag that's going to go between 0 for the closed position, and in this case, let's see, where's my green color here? I can't find my green color. Maybe, well, that's a green. And we want image 1 to be the on. So this is really the valve. So I'm going to go over to the right side of Crimson, go to data tags on the right, and simply grab the valve tag from the right side and drag and drop it right here into the image select. Drag it right there to image select. And then click the OK button in the lower left-hand corner. And if you want to put it somewhere else, great. It don't matter, but I'll put it somewhere like this. It don't matter. And I really don't need these guys on here anymore, so I'll just move them down here. All right, let's go ahead and download this to our emulator. And let's see what happens here. You could probably get pretty fancy and put a puddle of water out here when you're training, which is what we do in my class. But let's see what happens when we go above 175. The pump should go off. Don't worry about the tank keeps filling up and down. That's because we've got that internal tag, and we're not going to worry about this for this playing around. But you can see the valve is open, which is great. And the valve should close when it gets to 25, and then the pump should return on again, indicating our filling up and down sequence here. Let's see here. 25, here we go. Beautiful. Logic's working great. Team, we are calling this simple program every second, and that seems to be working great. So I just wanted to make a quick video for you to play with here with that thing. You know what? Let's go one step further since we're playing with the emulator here. Let's go over here to the left, and let's go into our data logger section. Go into the data logger, and we're going to create just a simple data logger to show some trends on our screen just for giggles. So if we go ahead and in the data logger, if you click right here, this section right here, you should be able to create a new data log. So click there, boom. We're going to leave the default name as log1. And for this example, we do a continuous sample, which means we're going to be reading all the time. And for our update rate, let's make that once a second, 1.0 there. You can actually go faster in Crimson 3.2. You can go 0.2 now, but let's just do once a second. That's good enough for this. You know what? I'm going to make it 0.2. What the heck? Make it 0.2. And if I wanted each file to have 1 minute of data, now we're not going to go into the data log files because we're doing all this in the emulator, but if I wanted each one of these files to have 1 minute of data, well, listen, team, there are 60 seconds in a minute, and I'm taking 5 readings every second because I'm doing 0.2 millisecond or 200 milliseconds per reading. There's 5 of those in a second. So that would mean 5 times 60, each file would hold 300 samples for 1 minute of time. And then if I wanted this thing to always have the last 30 minutes of data, I can change the retain from 7 to 30. And that means after 30 files, each file is 1 minute time. After 30 files goes by, it'll delete the oldest and always have the latest one. Now, if you go to the Contents tab, this is where you tell it what you want to log. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and go over here to the right, click on my tank level, hold down my shift button, click on the pump. So I've got all 3 of those tags highlighted, and I'm going to drag all 3 out here like this. Perfect. All right. Now we want to see this on our screen. So let's go to display pages on the left, go back to display pages on the left. Do me a favor, go to the right side of Crimson. You should be there by default, but if not, go into primitives on the right and then hit the home button here to go to the top directory of your primitives. And in primitives, if you slide down a little bit, you should be able to see a category called system primitives. If you go into the system primitives, you've got here alarm viewer, event viewer, a bunch of other stuff, but the third row from the top is the trend viewer. Do me a favor and drag out the trend viewer like so, and feel free to make it be a little bigger on this page like this. Just want to see if this will quickly give you something to play with. Now, double click on the trend viewer or right click and go to properties. This is going to sound weird, but it should bring you in on the options tab, the first one. If not, make sure you're there. Because we can have multiple data loggers run at the same time and multiple trend viewers showing different data, you have to tell this thing what log to get its files from. So if you hit the pull down here where it says data log, go ahead and choose log 1. That's the only one we have, so do that. The viewer width means that this by default will span up to 4 minutes. Rather than wait that long to fill in, hit the pull down here for 4 minutes, slide all the way to the top and click on 30 seconds. And then one of the things I really like about Crimson 3.2, here goes the emulator's going to shut down, is change your pen weight to 7 or 8 pixels. It's a lot easier to read. And the other thing I really like about Crimson 3.2 is the show cursor. I love this. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on show cursor and say yes. Okay. That's about all you got to do changes in here for this. We're not going to do anything on the format, buttons. We'll leave everything default. It's all good. So I'm going to click the OK button down below here. And let's go ahead and download this to it. And it should start to show our stuff here. Now you might ask, what do you mean by show our stuff? Well, the red line happens to be the tank level. I should change that to blue. You know what? I'll change it to blue in a second. And you can't tell, but there's some other lines going on that happen here. And if you look here, I just clicked. I can do anywhere on here. I can click, and it'll show that data at that moment, and then I go back to live, and it'll crank right out. But the problem here, this is my opinion, is that because the pump and the valve only go between 0 and 1, you get like a break off. You don't get a square wave. But I have another video that shows how you can cheat and make that be some other variables. But anyway, that's just something to play with. It took me like 40 minutes to do this. Do me a favor, team. Go ahead and build this, and then I might make some other videos to build on this concept. Let me go ahead and save this. What should we call this in today's video? Let's see what we got here, team. Let's go put this somewhere we can find it for later. Well, this is a G07, so I'm going to put this in my G07 example, and let's call this our G07 emulator class. Yeah, and I'll make some other videos building on this. So this will be the first one, but gives you a chance to play with some code, some data tags, and play around. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. That's going to be the name of this database, and I'll make some other videos to build onto. That's 40 minutes for today. Play away, team, and let me know what you think. Hey, thanks a lot. Have a great day. We'll see y'all.